Hello everyone, today is 24th of May, now it's 10 to 11 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is first part of today's update, in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second part will be available on my Patreon page, and if you are interested in more news from Russia and maybe my commentary, also some additional extra content about just about life in Russia, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon. That will be great support of this channel and my work. Link is on the description box under this video and in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's go through some news now. And well, first of all, RIA Novosti's report about Kiev regime's yet another strike with ATACMS missiles on Crimea. According to Russian Defense Ministry, 3 ATACMS missiles were shot down during the night time over the Crimea. No reports about how many ATACMS were launched, just 3 or maybe some more, but 3 of them was shot down. No reports also about casualties on the ground or damage, if there was any. RIA Novosti's report also that Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Andreevka in Donetsk People's Republic. I predicted during the previous updates that one of these days, most likely, Russian Defense Ministry will announce liberation of Andreevka, and yesterday afternoon, that's exactly what Defense Ministry did. It was predictable because as I reported in previous updates, there was some information that Kiev regime forces were withdrawing from this eastern bank, let's say, of the Seversky Donetsk Donbass channel from Krasnaya to Kurdyumovka. And well, after Russian forces established full control over the Klishchevka, it is become obvious that Kiev regime forces would not be able to hold on to their positions in Andreevka for long. Most likely in next several days, all Kiev regime units in eastern bank of this channel will most likely leave the area and will try to establish new defense lines on the western bank of the channel. So Andreevka is under full Russian control. It's official now. TASS news agencies report that yesterday Russian armed forces conducted strike on the railway station Lyubotin in the Kharkov region, and during this strike, points of concentration of Kiev regime's manpower and military equipment was targeted. According to this report, on one of their military trains, echelons, there was a number of Ukrainian tanks, and possibly up to 10 of tanks. Kiev regime lost up to 10 tanks that were completely destroyed or significantly damaged, and unknown number of military personnel. Also, RIA Novosti's report that simultaneously Russian forces were conducting strikes inside the Kharkov city itself, and at least 10 explosions were reported by locals. And even though we don't really have at this point detailed information about these strikes, it is obvious that Russian forces were conducting strikes against military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime. Also, TASS news agencies report that today, U.S. leadership most likely will announce a new military aid package for Kiev regime worth of $275 million. In this aid package, there will be HIMARS missiles, multi-launch rocket system missiles, also shells for artillery shells for 155 millimeter and 105 millimeter artillery systems. Well, we also have information that, well, according to RT, Politico published article according to which German plans to arm Kiev regime is failing. Germany's effort to ramp up supplies of the Western-made air defense systems to Ukraine have so far fallen flat, as other nations have largely refused to chip in. Politico reported on Wednesday. Basically, information is about these recent promises of German leadership that they will provide Kyiv regime with their third Patriot air defense system. And there was also reports about possibility that possible deliveries to Kyiv regime of Iris-T air defense systems from Germany. And well, Berlin was expecting that other countries will also participate, but Poland stated that they have no air defense systems to share with Ukraine. Romania made a similar statement. Prime Minister of Romania claimed that militaries are against of such steps. Seems like other countries are also not in a hurry to further demilitarize themselves by giving to Kyiv regime whatever they have left from air defense systems or from other type of weapons. Anyways, let's continue. Lentaru is reporting that well, Zelensky on 13th of June will participate in the G7 meeting, leaders of the G7 meeting, and most likely he will further push this narrative of establishing no-fly zone over the Ukraine by NATO member states, as we all know, and I reported about it in previous updates. Zelensky is demanding now NATO member states to shut down Russian missiles over the Ukraine, and basically everything in the skies, including Russian planes. He did not say planes, but he said everything to be shut down by NATO. That means planes also. In any case, missiles or planes, of course, that will be direct involvement of the NATO into this conflict, open involvement. Otherwise, we all know that NATO is already involved in this conflict, and NATO military personnel is operating with the long-range weapon systems in Ukraine that are used to target Russian territory. And of course, during this meeting of G7 countries, which should take place in Italy, I believe, most likely, Zelensky and his bosses in the West will further promote this narrative that Kyiv should have, Zelensky's regime should have opportunity to, or permission to use Western long-range weapon systems to strike deep inside Russian territory that recognized internationally as a Russian. We all know that new Russian regions, Crimea, EPR, LPR, Kherson and Zaporozhye regions are not recognized as Russian by majority of the countries, at least for now. And when they are talking about strikes deep in Russian territory, they mean strikes in territory before 2014. And of course, unfortunately, I'm afraid my prediction will become true in this particular case also. And probably we will see this huge level of escalation between Russia and NATO because of this irresponsible policies of the Western ruling class. And unfortunately, in upcoming days, maybe weeks, it is highly likely that, in my understanding, in my reading of the big picture, it is highly likely that NATO troops in Ukraine that are operating with British Storm Shadow cruise missiles, French Scalp EG cruise missiles, US ATACMS missiles, tactical missiles, those NATO troops will start launching those missiles deep inside Russian territory, and of course Moscow will be forced to react on this. And I'm afraid risk that Moscow will find itself in a situation when they will see no any other option but to use some extreme force to bring to their senses Western ruling class. So maybe Russia will retaliate with the force in such a scale that well, Western ruling class will finally realize that something is that they are playing with fire. At that point, it will be late. But unfortunately, we all know that despite many warnings from Moscow, Western ruling class did not listen, and I'm not even sure that they are able to listen at all. They're just unable to learn, unable to listen to other opinions, and they are not really taking seriously Russian warnings, I guess. which is very risky and very unfortunate, of course. TASS news agency is reporting that according to Politico, first group of Ukrainian pilots finished their training in US to fly F-16 US-made F-16 fighter jets, and will be sent now to Europe to continue their further training. Well, the topic of F-16s is also another step of escalation with Russia by Western ruling class. And whenever we will see, some people may believe that, Kiev regime has such geniuses in their air force that they are able to learn how to operate properly with F-16 fighter jets in few months' time. I don't buy this. And if we will see F-16s being deployed against Russia, for me personally, it will be obvious that that's pilots of the NATO member states, not pilots of Ukraine, but NATO member states. And Moscow was very clear about F-16s. These planes are nuclear capable, and Moscow will react accordingly on such development. Also, at the RT's report, exactly to continue this topic of possible escalation between NATO and Russia, that Putin plans to discuss second phase of nuclear drills with ally President of Belarus. Let's go through this news. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Belarus for 2-day state visit that will include talks on the former Soviet republic's involvement in nuclear weapons drills. We'll talk about the second phase of the exercises, Putin said after being greeted by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko on Thursday at the Minsk National Airport. Putin arrived in Belarus later last evening, local time. So this is related to direct participation of our Belarusian friends and colleagues in this event, in these exercises. Russian troops began first phase of the tactical nuclear exercises on Tuesday in their southern military district, which includes Crimea and former Ukrainian territories in Donbass, that's Lugansk People's Republic, Donetsk People's Republic, Kherson and Zaporozhye regions. Of course, Moscow said that the drills are meant to demonstrate its ability to respond to external threats, thereby deterring further escalation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict by Kiev's Western backers. Once again, unfortunately, I have to highlight that Western ruling class seems to be unable to learn, unable to listen, unable to take seriously Russian warnings, and therefore, as I said, man, it is highly likely that at some point, because of these constant escalations from the Western ruling class, at some point, maybe when US, UK's and the French troops will start launching their long-range weapon systems deep inside Russian territory that is recognized as a Russia by international community. At that point, or also in events of attempt by NATO to establish no-fly zone over the Ukraine, Moscow or Russian leadership may find itself in a situation when they will see no any other option but to use extreme force. And when I'm talking about extreme force, I not just mean conventional weapons. I mean extreme force, including nuclear weapons. And these drills, by the way, these drills clearly demonstrating that Moscow is considering every options already, because of course leadership of Russia also sees that Western ruling class is unable to listen, unable to take seriously Russian warnings, and it is obvious that only language they understand is force. So I'm afraid we are closing into that exact point when we will see some extreme level of escalation between NATO and Russia. absolutely unnecessary, but yet again, what you're gonna do, Western ruling elites escalating constantly and are unable to stop. They just have no reverse gear. And on this topic exactly, by the way, we have a statement of Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary. So Viktor Orban openly is saying that Europe is preparing to enter war with Russia, which is, I mean, what other warning can be given to the Western ruling class or to Western society for that matter, that is extremely passive and does nothing to influence its political elites and to force them to de-escalate. I mean majority of the Western societies, because of course they are well-informed groups in the West also, but in that well-informed citizens of the Western states are such a minority that unfortunately they have no influence over their processes in their countries at this point. And just look at this, by the way. It's the Prime Minister of NATO member states, NATO and EU member state, Viktor Orban, that is saying that Europe is preparing to get involved in this war. Europe is preparing for war, and Orban said that before previous world wars, there was a kind of similar situation in Europe when politicians and the media were preparing ground for involvement of this or that country into the war. I mean, let me translate entirely, because as I said, man, what other warnings can be issued by anybody really? I have no idea. So statements by the Western politicians and the journalists indicate that Europe is preparing for a war with Russia. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said on Radio Kossuth. Before the two world wars, the media spent quite a long time preparing for entry into the war. I think that what is happening today in Brussels and Washington, but rather in Brussels than in Washington, is a kind of preparation of sentiment for possible direct conflict. We can calmly say that preparations are underway for Europe to enter the war. This is happening in the media and in statements by politicians. The Prime Minister of Hungary is stating so. Yes, unfortunately, difficult to disagree with him. We have at this point too many indicators that Western ruling class is intended to further escalate this conflict, which is extremely dangerous and which may provoke third world war, but seems like there is no way to stop this Western elite, to check them. I mean, there is no force in the West to check their own elites right now. RT is reporting that US is challenging key ally on Ukraine little aid claim. United States have challenged the allegations made by its ally, UK, that China has been providing Russia with the little weapons for use against Ukraine. On Wednesday, British Defense Secretary Grant Shapps claimed, without providing any details, that London had evidence that the two countries were collaborating on a combat equipment that would be used in Ukraine conflict. US National Secretary Advisor Jake Sullivan has since cast doubts on Shapps' claims. Speaking during the Thursday's White House press briefing, Sullivan noted that Washington had no evidence to China's direct no evidence that China is directly providing weapons to Russia, and then quote, we have not seen that to date. I look forward to speak with the UK to make sure that we have a common operating picture, Sullivan said. So, well, maybe before making some strong statements, this people in the leadership of the collective West, will exchange information between each other or cooperate in some ways, because it's not serious, man. It's just not serious. RT is reporting that UK's MPs, by the way, applaud Ukrainian neo-Nazis, and this is true, by the way. This is true. British lawmakers cheered delegation of the notorious Azov Ukrainian military unit, neo-Nazi unit, at a round table in the parliament on Wednesday, while former Prime Minister Boris Johnson called them heroes. The neo-Nazi militia was founded in 2014 by white supremacist Andrei Belitsky, who designed its logo with symbols once used by their German SS divisions. Neo-Nazi German SS or Nazi German SS divisions. Sorry, we all know what am I talking about, isn't it? This is not modern Germany. This is during the Second World War, Nazi Germany. It was eventually integrated into the Ukrainian armed forces while retaining its Third Reich iconography. The battalion has been accused by Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the UN of multiple human rights abuses, including rape, torture, and torture of civilians. 3 members of Azov visited London and spoke before a group of parliamentarians. Lieutenant Arseny Fedosyuk and Ruslan Serbov had been captured in Mariupol in 2022, while the third, Sergeant Vladimir Vormigora, joined the unit in 2023. So 2 of these neo-Nazi criminals and mass murderers were Russian in hands of Russia, POWs, and were exchanged. And of course, they made promise that they will not join Azov again. But that's just look at them, man. And look at this patch that they have. Recognize it? And this is happening in UK's parliament, by the way. This chevron is a chevron of SS of the Nazi Germany. And this is happening in UK's parliament. Level of degradation of the political class in the West, including in UK, is unimaginable, man. I mean, this is shameful. This should be shameful for UK, and there should be some protests on the streets of London that these criminals are allowed to enter UK first of all, and then to go to Parliament and spoke to MPs. But I mean, it is what it is. Just look at this. Crazy, crazy. By the way, this is. I mean, we are living in very strange times, man. Very strange times. So, that newspaper is reporting that Switzerland is calling Russia now to participate in the conference that they are planning, the so-called peace conference on Ukraine that they are planning for 15th and 16th of June. Well, maybe it's too late to invite Russia now, but Swiss regime realize, I guess, finally, that world is not taking them seriously. World is not taking seriously this so-called conference, especially because, first of all, Russia was not invited from the beginning, and also because main topic of discussion was declared this Zelensky's so-called peace formula. Now, by the way, Swiss leadership changed its tune, and they are saying that, well, Zelensky's so-called peace formula will be main topic, and also some delegations, other delegations will have, have their say. So they will have opportunity to share their initiatives about how to achieve peace. But yet again, man, too late. Switzerland is a not neutral state. It's a part of anti-Russian coalition. It's an enemy of Russia. Switzerland is an enemy of Russia as a state, and Swedish leadership are enemies of Russia. And therefore, In no circumstances, in my personal opinion, Russian side should send anybody in this conference. I mean, come on, man. Switzerland cannot be taken seriously no more, man. It's finished. As long as they are, I don't even care, man. I don't even care. Switzerland is not neutral. It's an enemy of Russia. That's it. RT is reporting that Georgia does not want to become a second Ukraine, according to Prime Minister of Georgia. Well, another country that is under assault of the collective West, this evil force that turned entire majority of the Western states into enemies of Russia, unfortunately, like Switzerland. And well, let's go through this news now. And Georgia needs its recently passed foreign agents law to curb external influence and avoid repeating the fate of Ukraine, which the West has turned into a battlefront against Russia. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze said on Wednesday the divisive legislation entitled the Transparency of the Foreign Influence Act, also called Foreign Agents Law, would require NGOs in Georgia, non-governmental organizations, media outlets, and individuals receiving more than 20% of their funding from their abroad to register as entitles promoting their interests of the foreign powers and disclose their donors. The bill sparked weeks of protests in the Georgian capital Tbilisi, with critics arguing that it could be used to crack down on their opposition. Kobakhidze, Prime Minister of Georgia, likened the current state of affairs in Georgia to linked the current state of affairs in Georgia to muddy water, where foreign influence flows unchallenged, basically, and where those who wish to affect the country's governance can easily catch fish in the form of opponents to state policies and unite them to form revolutionary movements. Without the law, he says, there is a risk the country could turn into yet another Western proxy, much like what happened in Ukraine prior to Maidan coup in Kiev in 2014. We want transparency. We don't want to live in muddy water, because Georgian Maidan could lead our country to very serious consequences, to its Ukrainization. We cannot agree with this, Kobakhidze stated on the Georgian channel 1. And by the way, this is not all when it comes to Prime Minister of Georgia. Yesterday he accused EU of blackmailing him with assassination threats. So this is Kobakhidze, Irakli Kobakhidze, and let's go through this news also. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze has claimed that the European Commissioner told him that he could end up suffering the same fate as the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, who survived an assassination attempt last week. In a Facebook post on Thursday, Kobakhidze said that the unnamed commissioner, so he did not name this commissioner, warned him during a recent phone call that the West would take a number of measures against him if his government proceed ahead with the law required foreign NGOs and in Georgia to disclose their funding. While listing these measures, he mentioned, you see what happened to Fico, and you should be very careful. He Kobakhidze wrote. Fico was, of course, shot multiple times as he met with the supporters outside of a government meeting on May 15, and is recovering right now. He survived this attempt. So, by the way, Prime Minister of Georgia was basically threatened that he will be killed also, or they will be attempt to kill him, like it happened in Slovakia. And well, later on, this person, commissioner, European commissioner, and come forward and said that, well, his statement was taken out from his statement was misrepresented according to him, which is total nonsense, of course. I mean, during the conversation with the prime minister, why would you even mention that you may end up in a situation like with him? What the hell are you talking about? This is a threat. Everybody will see it as a threat, and that's how this situation was seen by Prime Minister of Georgia. And by the way, I guess many people in Georgia are realizing that these Western states, by the way, under current leadership, that they are, with few exceptions, of course, they are enemies of Georgia also. They are not just enemies of Russia, this so-called Western ruling class and countries that are under their control. But they are enemies of everybody in this world. That's why I'm saying, by the way, humanity, main danger for humanity, for survival of humanity, is the Western ruling class and their puppets in governments of their countries that they controlled, including collective West. It's just so obvious that I cannot understand how anybody cannot see this objective reality. But let's go through this news, by the way. The European Commissioner for Neighborhood and Enlargement, Olivier Varhelyi, has came forward as the official who allegedly threatened Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze with assassination, but said his comment had been taken out of context. In the social media poster of, well, rest of this is not really interesting, but basically he's claiming that Kobakidze misrepresented his statement, which is nonsense. No normal human being will talk like that with their other person, that you should be careful because you see what happened to Fico. I mean, this is nonsense, by the way. This individual was clearly intended to threaten Prime Minister of Georgia, and Kobakidze did the right move to make this information public, so that everyone will see that Western ruling elites are enemies of Georgia and Georgian society. They are enemies, mortal enemies of Georgian people. That's it. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, Blinken also is in the same, acting same way, trying to apply some additional pressure on Georgia's government. And, head of this so-called head of State Department of US, terrorist and mass murderer, Blinken, supporter of the genocide, participant of the genocide, let's be clear. Biden's regime is participating in the genocide of Palestinian people. It is what it is. So this criminal should be prosecuted for war crimes and crimes against humanity. So this criminal stated that US will put sanctions on citizens of Georgia, including politicians and public figures who had anything to do with this law about foreign agents, and their members of their families. And they will no longer be able to, there will be visa restrictions from US at this point. But I'm quite sure if the Georgian government will not back down, Western ruling class will try to freeze their bank accounts and will take whatever they can take from them, whatever assets leadership of Georgia might have in the West or Western banks will be most likely taken from them. And therefore, if those people in charge of Georgia are thinking several steps ahead, for this moment they should they should never have nothing in jurisdiction of their collective West. No bank accounts, no homes, no nothing, because most likely they will lose all of it. So yes, sanctions have begun on Georgia, at this point it's visa restrictions, according to this mass murderer and genocidal criminal Blinken, and more to come. Clearly more to come. More sanctions should be expected by Georgian leadership. RT is reporting that Beijing launches punishment drills around Taiwan. The Chinese People's Liberation Army has kicked off a series of joint exercises around Taiwan designed to serve as a punishment and a warning to punishment in the quotes, by the way, and warning also to separatist forces seeking independence of the island. It announced, this was stated in a press release made on Thursday. Drills will coordinate the PLA's Army, Navy, and Air Force and rocket forces in the Taiwan Strait, taking place in several directions around Taiwan and its outlying islands. On Thursday and Friday, military spokesperson Li Xi declared their exercises will focus on combining sea-air combat readiness, patrol, capture of the battlefield control, and the joint precision strikes on key targets, Li stated. So yes, major exercises are taking place all around the Taiwan island and few more islands that Taiwan is in control of. And well, Taipei reacted on this, by the way, and Taiwan is in response to these Chinese drills start deploying supersonic Hisang Feng-3 or HF-3 anti-ship missiles. I don't think we will see some further escalation in this region right now, but well, we all know that Washington wants to provoke conflict between Taiwan, which is a part of China, by the way, and mainland China, and I'm afraid eventually they will manage to do so. So Chinese are getting ready. RT is also reporting, and I will end this update on this news, by the way. First part of this update, second part will be on my Patreon page. So RT is reporting that hundreds of Boeing planes are at risk of mid-air explosion, according to media reports. This is, again, Boeing, and this is big deal. I mean, hundreds of planes, by the way. Wow. So U.S. Federal Aviation Administration issued their directive earlier this year, warning that a defect in Boeing 777 airplanes could cause a fire or explosion if unaddressed. It is unclear whether the plane's operations have addressed the issue. Planes operators have addressed the issue. The directive was issued in March while the FAA solicited comments until earlier this month, aimed a series of safety incidents involving Boeing aircraft. The Daily Mail reported on publicly viewable documents on Wednesday. According to the FAA, a metal plate attached to the fuel tank went on the wings of the 777 was installed without electrical bond, meaning it could potentially accumulate static electricity and cause a fire or explosion in the jet's fuel tanks. So, I mean, this is crazy, by the way. This is insane. Hundreds of Boeings hopefully already deal with this issue and fixed it, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe not. And who can say what other issues really have those planes? Because quality control in Boeing is like I don't know. Maybe there is no quality control at all on the Boeing, because too many situations with these companies' planes. And as I said, by the way, Boeing is going down. This process is unstoppable, and at some point, I guess, this corporation will be divided in several companies, so that maybe they will, in that case, maybe they will little bit increase quality of their product, of their planes. I don't know, but at this point, by the way, if I was planning to fly somewhere, I will make sure the plane is not Boeing. That's for sure, man. And well, still quite long update, but hopefully you will find it interesting and informative. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can influence algorithm, dear friends. More comments and likes. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my channels or my channel or my videos with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using, so that maybe we will manage to reach wider audience. And well, if you like this channel, if you think this channel should exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon, for which, by the way, I will record now second part of this video, this update. All the links are under this video in description box and the pinned comment. I will say goodbye to our YouTube and Rumble community now, and wish you a great day, and take care. Bye for now.